What's up, Lumiose trainers? Lumiose trainer Zach here. And who doesn't love a good post game? It's what you're going to be doing for the rest of your playthrough after you become the champion. So I'm really glad that some Pokemon games took the time to give us some good post game content. Now, while some titles have a post game that's the bee's knees, others are less to be desired, meaning they suck. So today, I thought I'd spice things up by talking about some of the worst post games to come from the Pokemon games. But I'm not doing this alone.
That's right, because he's got me. What's going on, Lumiose trainers? I'm KarlosPokemon, and today I'll be joining Zach in this video. Like he said, we're going to be talking about some of the worst post games in Pokemon, and once we're done here, be sure to head over onto my channel where we'll be talking about some of the best moments in the Pokemon games.
Now keep in mind that if we bring up a Pokemon game that you really like, it doesn't mean we hate them. It just means we hate their post game. Alright, now with that out of the way, let's get started. Starting off this list, we have Pokemon Black and White. These are the ones that probably offer the most in terms of post-game content. Right off the bat, we get the reintroduction of Looker, and he needs your help to catch the 7 sages of Team Plasma that have escaped. That's pretty cool. It becomes this whole mini quest where you have to go around the region to find them. You also gain access to Eastern Unova, and even get to battle Cynthia in Undella Town. There's just one huge problem, however. Everything in the post-game is extremely over-leveled. When you battle Genesis at the end of the main story, his strongest Pokemon is at level 54. If you battle every single trainer in the game, you should be around that level, so that's fine. Makes total sense. So why is every single trainer in Pokemon after this in their 60s? I'll never forget playing through the post-game of Pokemon Black for the first time and seeing a wild Pokemon that is the same level as the Elite Four. Excuse me? Trying to explore Eastern Unova honestly felt like a chore because you either had to do some serious grinding to make your Pokemon catch up to the level spike, or hope to God that you can survive a few battles before making it to the next Pokemon Center. Seriously, who in Game Freak allowed this? Who thought this would be fun? Because of this, I barely touched these games after I beat the main story. So if you're looking for a true Unova post-game experience, may I suggest their sequels Black 2 and White 2.
The next games we're going to talk about are Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon were built up with so much fanfare and excitement, I think almost everyone forgot what kind of post-game we could have with it. You could say that maybe Game Freak did too, since in post-game Alola there are about 5 things you could actually do, being the great but kinda tedious when you think about it Looker missions, catching the Tapu Pokemon, collect your own type null, and of course the Battle Tree. Oh, and Zygarde cells if you wanted to count that. Now that's not to say that things were inherently bad, just a little bit short. I mean, how many of you were actually excited to go to the Battle Tree after the first time you saw the familiar faces that had returned? Honestly, for me, they all just kinda began to fade in with the rest of the generic trainers after a while, and once I'd unlocked the battle stances and items I wanted, I didn't go back again, and mostly played the games for Wi-Fi battles, if at all. It's a real shame since the actual story of Sun and Moon was arguably the brand's strongest offering.
Next up is Pokemon X and Y. Really good games and one of my all-time faves, in terms of the main game. What about the post game? So boring. After becoming champion, you gain access to Kalos City, a city that literally has nothing interesting to offer except for the Ivy Checker guy, the Friend Safari, and the Battle Mason, which sucks. But don't worry, these games still offer a little bit more. At least they have the whole quest for the Mega Stones. This can either be fun or tedious depending on your experience. I didn't mind, to be honest. But what do you do after you collect all the Mega Stones? Well, you can always catch a legendary Pokemon like every other post game, except this game only lets you catch 3. Mewtwo, Zygarde, and Zapdos, Moltres, or Articuno depending on the starter you chose. Great. Not really. Yeah, the post game isn't so great here. Game Freak tried to give us an interesting story though. After you become the champion, you unlock the Looker missions in Lumiose City. This is basically a mini story of how Xerosic of Team Flare is up to no good and Looker is here to stop him. Man, what can I say here? The Looker missions had a great concept, but the execution was kinda lame. Instead of getting a cool story of how the evil team is trying to make a comeback, we get the introduction of this new character called Emma and how she affects the lives of you, Looker, and Xerosic with the power of love, or whatever. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't too bad, but I think the first scenario I mentioned would have been a lot better. The Looker stuff was done well in Platinum and Black and White, so I don't know why it failed here. Maybe the post game would have been better if the missions took place in other places that weren't just Lumiose City. Or, you know, let us ride that damn train to another region. Seriously, what was the point of adding that? I thought this would have been fixed with Pokemon Z, but we all know what happened to that game.
Ruby and Sapphire. The third generation of games and arguably enough time in Pokemon's history to have formulated a decent post-game, right? Nope. Apparently not, as unfortunately Ruby and Sapphire had little to offer in terms of things to do once you had beaten the main story. Similar to Sun and Moon games we mentioned earlier, Ruby and Sapphire had around 4 things you could do past the credit roll. 2 of these were legendary captures though, in Rayquaza and one of the Eon duo depending on your version, and the other 2 based on battling within the Battle Tower and SS Tidal. Although that kind of takes you to the Battle Tower, so you could argue that there are only 3 things to do in Ruby and Sapphire. Regardless, it's pretty disappointing. Personally, after finishing the game when they were first released, I never actually picked them up again. They honestly gave me no reason to. There are no narrative driven side quests or even fetch and carry missions. It was just battle, battle, battle.
Alright, the Pokemon games with the worst post game is Red and Blue. I'd love to hear how Gen 1ers defend this one. Now this can obviously be justified by the fact that they're the very first games, so obviously it would have a crappy post game because of the limited hardware. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the worst post games, and Red and Blue clearly have it the worst. Sorry. Actually, to help prove our point, why don't you tell us what these games have to offer? So go ahead, tell us what you can do after beating the main story. We'll wait. Did you hear that, Karlos?
Sounds like a whole lot of nothing to me.
Exactly. As much as you might love these games, you can't deny the fact that the post game has nothing to offer. The only thing you can get after becoming the champion is access to Cerulean Cave to catch Mewtwo. That is literally it. No battle facility, no gym leader rematches, nothing. I imagine it must have been super boring to play these games after you beat them back in the day. If you didn't have a friend close by that you can always battle with, you pretty much had nothing else to do after beating the main story besides catching them all. At least the remakes give you the Sevi Islands to explore during the post game, so you're much better off playing with those versions instead. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and also check out the video we did on Karlos' channel.
That's right, and if you're looking for a little positivity after watching this video, then I highly suggest you check out the video we made on my channel where we talk about some of the best moments in the Pokemon games.
If you're new to the channel, subscribe to become a Lumiose trainer today. Also, follow us on Twitter to find out what's up and what's new. Last but not least, make sure to live your life to the fullest, and we'll see you all next time.